Hello, welcome to Inside North East Non-League Football for another one of our chairman specials. I'm joined by a man whose club are celebrating their 10th anniversary of the first ever promotion into the Northern League. James Colwill, Heaton Stannington chairman, club stalwart, I'll call you, a long association with the club through your family as well, obviously. 10 years, I don't mind saying, seems to have absolutely flown by.
Without a shadow of a doubt. What a whirlwind. Been through a hell of a lot in those 10 years. Hats off to, previous manager for pushing the club to get that step into the Northern League. Was apprehensive at first, 10 years ago. Obviously my father heavily involved. But we bit the bullet, we made that jump, a lot of challenges, but like you say, 10 years ago seems like a long time ago. Not that we're not faced with challenges now, different challenges, but what a 10 years it's been.
When you look back to that initial jump, I mean, there's a lot of clubs in Step 7 that are looking to make the jump this year. I think there's 9 applicants from the Northern Alliance Wayside League and North Riding League. I mean, what sort of advice would you give those clubs? I know there are clubs that have been there, annex of this world, but what sort of advice would you give clubs for looking to make that jump this year?
You know, I've watched a few of these that you've done. Obviously, you did Frank at concert, who was giving advice for the likes of ourselves to the next jump, and it's very similar. The advice I would give is do your research,
Yeah,
get yourself ready. From an infrastructure point of view, um, don't worry too much about what everyone's doing. Just look at what needs done. So of course you have to have the required ground. There's no doubt about that. But look at what you want to be as a football club, and look
yeah,
at what you can do to your local area and how you can make your local area thrive and make it better for them, which will make it better for yourselves. Try and get the community involved. That's 100% what we've built our success on. Um, it's not easy. It's not a short journey.
yeah.
Don't expect to make that jump and just be in the Northern League and everyone go and put our feet up now. Constant challenges, more volunteers, but there are people out there. And the jump up raises your profile, raises the profile of your football club. Great work that people like yourselves are doing, Mark. Obviously, to thrust you into the limelight, but the more profile you have, the more people know about your football matches.
Yeah.
No disrespect at all to the Northern Alliance or Step 7 teams, but that profile isn't quite as much as what it is when you get to Step 6 and Step 5.
Yeah.
You obviously have your national competitions, the VARs, the FA Cup, which raises that profile again. So it's a big jump. It can be an expensive jump. Plan it right, on the pitch, off the pitch, and it's exciting. I will give that. I mean, I was great 10 years ago, so I don't want to put anybody off for that.
Just looking at that, I mean, that jump, and without going too much into figures, I mean, the financial difference between competing in the alliance as you were compared to the second division of the Northern League, was it a big jump in finance?
Infrastructure wise,
Yeah,
it is without a shadow of a doubt, your biggest challenge. Depending on who looks to apply, and depending on what they need to do. Ground grading, floodlights. Floodlights were without a shadow of a doubt, the biggest cost to us. We had a number of issues with the floodlights relating to our ground and the ground profile and stuff like that. But that's your biggest expense. I mean,
yeah,
people will talk about players, but no, not at all. From that point of view, I would tell teams not to worry about it.
yeah. I mean, when you make that jump, obviously everyone looks at it on the pitch as well. And in those seasons, those first 6 seasons, I think it was in Division 2 of the Northern League, didn't finish outside of the top 10, I don't think, which shows in terms of on-field, there's maybe not too much difference. But did you learn things from other clubs that were maybe established in the Northern League about off-field and infrastructure?
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt. Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt. Like you said, on field, you see a number of similar clubs. Probably go through them with Stockton being one. You've got Borough Rangers at the minute, who were Step 7, kept that close knit together. Probably have added to it over time, but hit the second division, flew through it in the first division, doing excellent. There's a number of clubs who do similar when they first get promoted.
Yeah,
That was what we did. We kept that nucleus of a very good Northern Alliance team, and then progressed through that. But yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, I do become the boring one. Every ground I go to, people are going, "Oh, it was a good game, wasn't it?" I'm going, "Yeah, have you seen the dugouts? That's a good idea." Oh, yeah, have you seen the half time, cup of tea that they put on, or the cakes, or everything? And everywhere you go, honestly, you literally turn into that person who's going, "You seen what they're doing here? That looks good. He's seen the catering facilities they've got. He's seen that extra little bar, that extra little refreshment." And yeah, I mean, to be honest, you've got to be a sponge. That's what I do. That's our games. You see me out and around the scene every
Yeah.
midweek, Tuesday, Wednesday, doing the same, getting around, talking to people, asking for advice, make friends, ask for advice, how do you cope with these problems? We've got a walkway, which is quite big from our changing rooms to our pitch. Anyone got any advice? What do you use? How do you do it? In
Yeah.
every club will have different challenges based on, the unique infrastructure and landscape that they currently have. You look at teams like Whitley Bay who don't have that problem because they pretty much come out the changing rooms and straight onto the pitch and out through a tunnel. But so yeah, learn from everyone, speak to everyone, don't be shy. Everyone's in the same boat.
I think one of the biggest things I admire about the Stan is that you've got an identity now. That's been kind of created over the last 10 years of, the real ales in the clubhouse, the welcoming nature of the clubhouse. You're quite regularly spoken about as one of the most hospitable clubs. You look at your involvement in the local community, particularly during COVID. I know there was a lot of work going on there. The warm hub as well, inviting people into the warm hub. Do you feel that that being that hub of the community, is that essential to the club moving forward?
100%. The geographical location of the club helps. We are in quite a populated area,
Yeah.
of the east end of Newcastle, and without that population, we wouldn't be the club we are.
Yeah.
It's pretty much as simple as that. I'll be up there tonight for the quiz night, which again we'll have a full clubhouse of locals, regulars. We had the comedy night last week, which is a quarterly event, which again fills a clubhouse. If you go tonight, which you're involved in football, Mark, you don't attend these events, that's fine. We've all got different populations. But if you did, you'd go, "Oh, there's him who does that on a match day. Oh,
Yeah.
there's that person." And it's all these little families and groups of people. Special mention to people, who set up our junior section. We now have a junior section which started this year.
Yeah.
I say started, but obviously the weather's given it a very stop-start.
Yeah.
But yeah, get that, and that has really ramped things up in the community. And to be honest, I say hard work, I say challenges, but for me, walking around Heaton and walking around, sort of supermarkets and seeing little kids in their Heaton stand tops is like, that's as good as it gets for me. That is, don't get me wrong, football is my primary aim. I love my football. Getting 3 points on a Saturday, midweek, Wednesday is unbelievable. It gives you such a buzz. But seeing kids, seeing people walking around, seeing adults with their beanie hats on and Sainsbury's is like, to contribute towards something like that is massive. You touched on some non-football things such as a warm hub and some of the success stories that have come out of that, where some people in the community were isolated after COVID and we've really, reinvigorated some people's lives. It's really hard to quantify in just a little medium like this, Mark. But when you're
Yeah.
actually speaking to people, and speaking to their family members who are saying you've reinvigorated my mother who's 80 years of age and hasn't left the house for a number of years, it really is quite touching, I'll be honest.
Yeah. I've seen you described as the hipster's choice of Northern League club, in terms of, you've got a lot of students come down and watch. How is that being cultivated? Because I mean, there's a big student population in Heaton. We shouldn't, obviously close to universities and such like. But how did you become that club, or was it just an organic function?
Firstly, I will say it's certainly not driven by myself. I'm certainly not the hipster.
I've always thought you were hipster, James. I've got to be honest.
But no, I mean organic. It is what we do as a club. And again, it hasn't been a strategic targeting of our sort of population, but that is our population.
Yeah.
The surrounding areas, that is what they like. Prices are really reasonable. Which you do then filter into that student population.
Yeah.
You mentioned the Real Ale there. We have become a Club of the Year for a number of years now, which again gives you that publicity. and gives more people to come in. It's not my tipple, but unbelievably,
I don't mind it.
I'm constantly surprised by how many people enjoy it. Good luck to them. It's great. It's great to see people enjoying themselves. It's great to see younger students coming, young professionals, everything. I mean, some of the things they drink, and it's just unbelievable, but they absolutely love it. And I love putting it on for them, really.
Yeah. Just looking at the season as it is now. In fact, no, we'll go back to the playoffs. I think we should go back to one of the biggest days in the club history. I mean, Towlow at home, in that playoff final. I was hoping to be there that day, but I was reporting elsewhere. But when I saw the crowd come through more than anything, and seeing, that many people at Groundsel Park, I mean, wow, what an achievement.
Where do you start with the crowds? I mean,
Yeah.
the crowds just absolutely. We've talked a little bit, in the last 10 minutes about, the surrounding area and things like that. And the crowds have steadily improved. We've been well supported. A couple of hundred that season in the second division when we did get promoted. We were 200, 300, 350, etc. We had the semi-finals and got 650. Ease it and thought, a lot of people here, this is hard to deal with. And then, 3 days later on the Saturday, we were just absolutely blown away. I hold my hands up to anyone who had to wait too long to get in, anyone who had to wait too long for a drink. We had queues down the park. We've had people saying since they didn't know what was going on as we were walking around the park and heard cheers, and you could hear it for miles around, and it absolutely blew us away. Unfortunately, this season's been what it is, but start the season, we're talking 400-500 people more. We're having local derbies against Whitley Bay last year, getting 800-900 people on Friday nights. Absolutely outstanding. Can't thank the people who turn up enough, to be honest.
Just one last one on the playoff final. It felt quite fitting as a bit of a stalwart himself, who got the winner, and in the manner of the winner as well, coming deep in stoppage time in Ryan Bailey. It feels as if, although the club is very different from, the squad is very different now from the one that got promoted, there felt something quite fitting about Ryan getting the winner.
I mean, I was about to say you couldn't write it, but maybe you probably could write it. But yeah, I mean, again, on that day, 1,100 people there, I didn't know what was going on. I was too busy. Didn't know the score. Didn't know anything. Didn't even know the time. I heard a massive cheer. I came out and everyone went, "We're winning." All right. I went, "How long's left?" I said, 10 minutes. I've subsequently found out there was about 30 seconds left.
Yeah.
And then obviously found out it was Ryan Bailey. I mean, club captain, ever since he's gone through a tough time with some injuries, he's just starting to get back on the pitch now, playing some games for our reserve team in the Alliance, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, what a guy, what a family, what an ending to that season. I hope the previous regime took a lot from it, because I honestly could not give them any more credit for that, and for Ryan still to be here, it is absolutely brilliant.
I always remember that day because it was the day that Gateshead lifted the National League North title. They got the trophy that day, and as I went pitch side, Owen came off the pitch, and the first thing he asked was, "How did the stand get on? Did they win?" And I'd only seen the score, so I was like, "Yeah, they won. They won the game. They're up. They're promoted." And as he came back out to actually lift the trophy, I said, "By the way, Ryan got the winner," and he wouldn't believe it. So, yeah, a remarkable day. But you look at where the club's gone since then, and now, I think we mentioned at the game we're recording this on Thursday, the game of Wednesday night against West Allotment. People maybe forget that it's still only the club's second season as a Division 1 club, but you already feel established at that level.
I kind of agree with what you're saying. After the game, there was a lot of disappointment. Primarily just that's football. You score to go 1-0 up in the 83rd minute. You think you're there. You concede 5 minutes in the 88th minute, and it feels like a loss.
Yeah.
But you have to take a step back and say we're disappointed not to be beaten West Allotment, who are a well-established team. They've been in the first division for quite a while. Jay's done unbelievable with that team. The COVID years where they had an unbelievable, season in that second division. And then, I don't know the exact, but he finished about 5th in the first division. The struggle when they first went in, and then he went on an amazing run. So for us to be disappointed not to beat them shows how far we've come, Mark. Really does. Can't agree more that I keep trying to rein everyone in to say this. We haven't even finished 2 years in the first division, and we're currently sitting in fifth. Number of games in hand, win them. We'll obviously climb a little bit. Bishops and Shildon have obviously had an excellent season, but again, you're talking about teams like Shildon that we're competing against who've just been relegated from Northern Premier League. That's just you couldn't even think that in your wildest dreams. So testament to everyone who's involved as to how far things have came.
Just looking sort of at management for a while. You mentioned earlier that the previous manager and Derek Thompson and Jeff Walker as well have been two genuine stalwarts of the club. And I guess on the pitch, at least what's going on now wouldn't have been able to happen without what they did back then.
100%. The foundations that probably your first question mark 10 years ago was Derek, who really, really pushed us, to go into the Northern League. He had such a good team in that Northern Alliance, won everything, doubles, trebles, quadruples, such a great squad, and it was stale. He wanted to push on. And look where we are now, so I suppose that kind of answers the question you answered asked right at the start about what advice would you give? Go for it. Look where we are now. Could we have still been in that alliance? With not necessarily no ambition, but I don't think we have 1,100 people watching us if we're in the alliance. Put it that way. So without those foundations are absolutely unbelievable.
And just looking at the current management team of Dean Nicholson, Andy McBride, I mean, it's never easy replacing someone who's been in a club for so long and where they've really put their stamp on the club. But it looks as if, well, I don't even looks as if it just has. Dean and Andy have come in and really took it to this level where it's at now and really trying to push forward again.
Definitely. Look around the leagues, the Alliance, the Northern League. There'll be lots of clubs who have many different managers and are used to advertising, re-advertising, in the market, know who they're going to get. We've never done that. Derek had been here as long as almost I'm alive, and he'd literally been here that long that it was like, what do you do now to get another manager? And I had a meeting with all the players. Fortunately, I was relatively close to quite a lot of the players, but I was like, look, Heaton Stannington's still going to continue, but it's not going to be with Derek anymore. And we kept the number. Manager came in, Dean came in, brought Andy in, managed the numbers, managed to add to the numbers, managed to add again and again. And then obviously to get that transition, it was real rocky ground for the club for obvious reasons. It could have went one or two ways, and do we strike lucky? Is it a good appointment? But you've just got to you've got to say thanks to Dean and Andy for the work they've done. It's as simple as that, because luck doesn't go on for 2 years. Do you know what I mean?
We've spoken about this before in for a piece for a magazine, but I'll ask you on here as well. We can't ignore the geographical location of the club, as you've already alluded to it, but you are on the doorstep, quite literally, of a behemoth of a football club, Newcastle United. But despite their reinvigoration of fortunes, I guess, and the newly found ambition under the new owners, your crowds, your profile is still raising. I mean, how have you done that?
You've just got to work alongside each other. You can't compete with Newcastle. It's as simple as that. So you've got to work alongside them. That's why some of our successes have been things like Friday night games. Our successes are reasonable prices. You ain't going to get a pint at St James's Park for the same price you get at Groundsel Park. That's just obvious. So that's what you've got to continue to do. You've got to continue to put on things that people are going to be maybe an alternative, but there's room for both teams to coexist. Of course there is. We ain't going to get 50,000 people at Groundsel Park. Thankfully, we don't want 50,000 people, if that makes sense. But has it reinvigorated the Northeast? Maybe. So has it given people an appetite to go, actually, let's get out and watch some football. Newcastle are away on Monday, so let's get down to somewhere on the Saturday, and watch the local stuff. So, definitely, don't try and go head to head with them, because, match days, we lose 50 to 100 supporters when Newcastle are at home at 3 o'clock. Ideally, if they can have more European football, which changes that, then that'll benefit ourselves.
There's a lot of talk, and I'm wary of guiding this too much towards Newcastle, but there's a lot of talk of an extension of St James's Park or even relocation. Given that St James at the moment can only hold 52,500, would it concern you the impact on non-league football in the area if it was to go to a 60, 65, 70?
Yes and no. I mean, obviously the takeover was a concern. People were apathetic, previous with Mike Ashley, and sometimes they're down to 40,000. So that there's more appetite for the non-league scene. Hasn't massively impacted us. Hard to gauge because this season hasn't been a great one weather-wise in games and stuff like that. But no, I think as long as you keep working hard, as long as you keep putting, something off the pitch, something on the pitch that people are entertaining, want to come and see, I think they can both coexist. And 50,000, 60,000, I'm not fully convinced that'll have too much of an impact. Touch wood. That 50 to 60, reading reports, reading social media and all the talk, there's going to be a lot of corporate in there, a lot more expensive tickets, that sort of thing. And is that the market that we're going to be attracting? I think that's pretty unlikely. So fingers crossed.
So you're saying the new hospitality lounge won't be, the cost of that won't go up?
It might go up a little bit, but probably only be about £5,000 plus VAT, not £10,000 plus VAT.
We had a brief chat last night about the future, the club's ambitions. I mean, everything's going positive at the moment. Is there that ambition to go to that next level?
Of course. 7-8 years in the second division, ambition was always to go higher. Every club will have its ceiling. Where Heaton stands is your guess as good as mine. While things are positive, ride them out again. Back to what you were saying about the Alliance, ride the good times out because there will be bad times at some point. But let's go. We are where we are. Like I said, we're fifth now, which if the season finished today, would be in the playoffs, which would give you 2 games of being in there, which basically means that you're close to that level. You're close to step 4. You win your games in hand, and you're up to third, and 2 games against Shildon, home and away. And I know it's still going to be the playoffs in second, but in previous years, second might have went up. So you're very close. So the ambitions are, ought to get there. It's a whole circular argument because it brings more challenges. In terms of the challenges coming into the Northern League now, the challenges to get out of the Northern League, it's more investment, but right away with positivity, it's as simple as that, really.
Well, when we talk about ceilings, I sort of had this conversation with Martin Hillaby on the show earlier last week, and he spoke about the town of Stockton will have to get behind the club if it wants to go further and bigger crowds. I mean, their crowds have gone up really, really quite a lot, but if they want to go and compete at a higher level, it's going to have to continue. Although Heaton as an area is nowhere near as big as Stockton, I guess at a slightly smaller level, you're in a similar situation. If the club wants to progress in a financially viable way, the local community are going to have to continue getting behind the club.
100% more. That's where our success is built from. We don't have big sponsor backers or nothing like that. We're self-funding, pretty much all revenue generating from fans and things like that. And however many of them come in is how far we will go. It's almost an exact science. They've been absolutely brilliant so far. I'd like to think it will continue. Again, you do listen to Frank, who, if you want someone financial savvy, he's probably the right person to go to. But he does talk about the number of local derbies that you lose, the away supporters that you lose, and things like that, which, we will have to be taken into consideration. But as long as the Stan Army's got our back in, then I'm pretty confident that, we'll do okay on that front.
When you look at changes that would need to be made within the club in terms of, your off-field stuff, your ground grading, everyone always comes back to ground grading, but you can't ignore it. It's got to be done. And when you look at how much you need to do, how much do you think you need to do, I guess, to get there?
A bit, and second year in the first division, I'd reiterate that again, which means that these challenges come around a little bit quicker than what you would like. You visit a number of times, you see gradual improvement, permanent fence has gone in now, a new bar's going in 2 months, get the season out the way, and that's been refitted. We're getting a few more improvements, but these improvements aren't necessarily ground grading. So we like to always try and improve supporters' experiences again to attract more supporters, make them want to come, make them comfortable when they're here. But of course, the ground grading are the things that you have to do, in order to meet that criteria. So yeah, quite a bit. It's in plan. If it had to be in plan for next year, then I might go bold as well as grey, but it would be done. The plans are there to be done. If we have a bit more time, then that would obviously be better. It's as simple as that. But that's common sense, really. But yeah, trying to get it all done. We're trying to keep up with Dean and Andy. They're so progressive. They're pushing the club forward, which we're very, very grateful for. And we just have to keep up. It's as simple as that.
And just a final one, and again, a similar question to what I asked Martin. Looking back at the rise of the club, looking back at the last 10 years, is the one moment that really stands out as a moment that you'll take with you for the rest of your life?
We've already spoke about the playoff final. I'm not a hugely emotional person, but I did cuddle my dad and shed a tear. It was tough time. Old manager leaving, new one coming in, really rocky period, but eventually getting to the first division after having a very, very successful second division team without huge success, if that makes sense. Eventually getting into that first division, and like you say, Ryan Bailey, lifelong friend, love the family to bits, and seeing him do that is absolutely. It's going to be hard to beat. There is some little competition called the FA Vars, which sits somewhere in the background, which could trump things, but without a doubt, so far it's been that moment.
James Colwill, thanks for joining us and reliving the last 10 years, a decade of Heaton Stannington in the Northern League, and looking at what could lie ahead. Good luck to the club for the rest of the season, and thanks again.
Thanks, Mark.